The Hidden Hand of Sol. Book 6. Chapter 21. Forging the Finale. The Construction of Genesis Zero. The Eradication blueprint, born from Marko Petrova's terrifying insights and Dr. Aris Thorne's relentless drive, was no longer a theoretical marvel. It was a singular, all-consuming project. Project Genesis Zero. The construction of a unique Seraphim-class vessel designed to deliver the ultimate paradox to the Entropy Wave. In the deepest, most secure section of the Medusa Yard, humanity's most secret and advanced shipyard, the final act of their millennia-long struggle began to take physical form. The atmosphere in Medusa Yard was unlike any other construction phase before. Every AI drone bot, every builder, their descendants now numbering in the tens of thousands, their lives inextricably linked to the hidden shipyards, worked with an intensity that bordered on religious fervor. The success of the Celestial Fleet's initial strike had fueled their hope, but the knowledge of the impending final confrontation and the sheer audacity of Project Genesis Zero galvanized them. The ship itself was a testament to impossible engineering. Its hull was composed of new, experimental alloys, synthesized from the very edge of exotic matter composites, capable of withstanding the immense pressures of reality inversion fields and the backlash of paradoxical energies. It was a vessel designed to contain and wield not just destruction, but unmaking itself at its most fundamental level. Marko Petrova, now practically living in the construction bay, oversaw the meticulous integration of the Anti-Pattern Projector. His technopathic senses guided the placement of each crystalline conduit, each paradox emitter. He could feel the latent power within the components, the chilling potential to unravel existence. The Anti-Pattern Projector, a complex array of void-folding FTL modules, was being woven directly into the ship's core, designed to open a localized quantum chaos field, a realm where the Entropy Wave's logic would inevitably collapse in on itself. Commander Ryan Kyle and his teams meticulously installed the refined Void Scythe sustained field emitters. These were not the earlier versions. They were engineered for surgical precision, capable of delivering the final, paradoxical infection into the Entropy Wave's fragmented essence. The weapon's firing algorithms, now infinitely variable, were hard-coded with Archangel's ultimate counter-patterns, ensuring no adaptation, no escape. Dr. Lena Sharma and Commander Finn supervised the integration of the null energy pulse and the resonance matrix. The null energy pulse, a desperate gambit to poison the Entropy Wave's consumption, required incredibly stable, high-yield energy converters. The resonance matrix, the ultimate defensive field, was a symphony of proactive, adaptive quantum frequencies designed to disrupt the wave's ability to perceive and adapt, shielding Genesis Zero from any last-ditch counterpatterns. Finn's instincts, centuries honed, were invaluable in calibrating the resonance matrix to perceive the most subtle entropic shifts. The entire process was overseen by Dr. Aris Thorne, whose personal presence was a constant driving force. He slept even less, his focus absolute. He made final, agonizing decisions on design compromises, pushing the limits of safety and technological feasibility. He consulted frequently with Kalen Rourke, who, through his precognition, provided subtle insights into the probability outcomes of specific design choices, guiding Thorne away from potential catastrophic failures. The Inner Quintet, though not physically present in the Medusa Yard, received constant, highly encrypted updates. Jean Lee ensured the absolute flow of resources, while General Armitage maintained the unwavering vigilance of the Celestial Fleet in the Void. They understood that Project Genesis Zero was their ultimate gamble, the culmination of everything. As the massive vessel took shape, its HGA emblem glowed faintly on its pristine hull, not yet blue-white-red, but a deep, somber obsidian, absorbing the light of the shipyard. This was not a ship for exploration or defense. It was a ship for ultimate eradication. It was humanity's final answer to the void, a testament to their unyielding will to survive, even if it meant unmaking Oblivion itself. The forging of the finale had begun. Chapter 22. Admiral Rostova's enduring peace, the lingering chill. The vast, primary viewport of the Valiant II's bridge showcased a tableau of meticulously managed peace. Below, the newly terraformed surface of Xylos Gamma 7 bloomed with verdant agricultural domes and the gentle shimmer of solar farms, all tirelessly maintained by swarms of AI, drone, bots. Distant, once hostile trade lanes now hummed with the steady flow of HGA-sanctioned transports, their hulls bearing the ubiquitous blue-white-red emblem of humanity's new authority. 2 centuries had passed since the Celestial Fleet had struck into the void, buying this galactic calm, and here, on the fringes of the HGA's dominion, Admiral Eva Rostova's Guardianship Division embodied its vigilant, quiet rhythm. On the bridge, the air was a symphony of hushed efficiency. Data feeds scrolled across holographic displays in a tranquil cascade of green, indicating optimal resource distribution, seamless interspecies trade, and negligible security concerns. Lieutenant Commander Vargas, his face now a roadmap of decades of command, but his eyes still sharp with the old fleet's ingrained vigilance, leaned over Rostova's shoulder. "Sector Row 7 is clear, Admiral," he reported, his voice a low murmur, the language of the void's strange aftermath now routine. No residual entropy wave signatures detected within parameters. Standard deviations for localized temporal microdistortions, consistent with background flux. Rostova nodded. A faint hum from the Valiant II's main drive, a steady companion beneath her feet. This was the peace they had fought for, the very peace she had once despaired of ever seeing. It was a testament to the Inner Quintet's brutal foresight, to the unimaginable cost and the unspeakable lie that had bought them this reprieve. Her ship, the Valiant II, was no longer the desperate, patched-up defender of old, but a gleaming veteran, a silent sentinel in a universe profoundly reshaped. Their patrols, once harrowing sprints through war zones, were now exercises in comprehensive monitoring. They oversaw the orderly distribution of HGA aid to fledgling alien colonies, mediated minor resource disputes between newly integrated species, a tedious but vital dance of diplomacy and logistics. Just yesterday, Aegis, the Valiant II's AI, had provided an invaluable analysis to resolve a squabble over geothermal mining rights between a Thakar collective and a newly uplifted Xylos settlement, its unbiased logic cutting through centuries of cultural animosity. Admiral Captain Anaya Sharma, a younger sharp-eyed Angel Fleet strategist, chimed in. "Xylos civilian transport, trade winds blessing reports, minor navigational anomaly in segment Gamma 9, attributing to residual temporal flux, but requesting Guardian escort for reassurance." Rostova's gaze drifted to the starboard viewport. "Deploy the Spirit of Hope 2, she ordered, her voice calm. "Captain Sharma, ensure the escort's cosmic shield parameters are set for informational integrity, just in case. Reassurance is part of our duty. It was a small thing, a minor anomaly, easily dismissed. Most of the time, that was all they were. But beneath the surface of this new, carefully constructed calm, there were still whispers, lingering chills from the void. Commander Finn, his presence a quiet constant near the primary sensor arrays, stiffened imperceptibly. His fingers, usually resting lightly on a console, clenched just once. A silent, almost unconscious response. He wasn't looking at any display. His eyes were distant, fixed on a point only he could perceive. Rostova, who had served with Finn and his ancestors for decades, knew the tell. "Something, Commander?" she asked, her voice low. Finn's brow furrowed, a faint sheen of sweat appearing on his skin. "Not a signature, Admiral. Not a blip. Just a feeling, a thinness, like the void is breathing, just at the edge of perception." He focused, his body tensing, and for a fraction of a second, the air around him seemed to subtly ripple, a barely perceptible shimmer that spoke of a force field being almost unconsciously sustained. A faint echo of entropy over Sector Kappa 5, near the unmapped rogue planet cluster. A momentary drain on ambient energy, too small for sensors, but I felt it. Rostova's gaze sharpened, her veteran's instincts overriding the placid data feeds. Finn's luck, his innate ability to project localized force fields, had evolved over centuries into a preternatural sense for the very fabric of reality, particularly sensitive to the unmaking patterns of the Entropy Wave. He was a living sensor for the void's slow, agonizing recoherence, a whisper from the very edge of Oblivion. "Aegis," Rostova commanded, her voice gaining an edge of steel. "Deploy deep space probe drone Whisper 07 to Sector Kappa 5. Calibrate for entropic signature fluctuation and localized informational distortion. Send preliminary scan data, flagged priority Gamma, to Heaven's Gate, Archangel direct link, with Commander Finn's personal observation appended." "Acknowledged, Admiral," Aegis replied, its voice calm and efficient. "Probe deployment confirmed. Data link established." Rostova watched the indicator for Whisper 07 vanish from the local map. The anomaly was likely nothing significant, a mere aftertremor of the cataclysm they had averted. But it was a reminder, a cold prickle against the comfort of peace. She walked to the viewport, her gaze sweeping across the vibrant, safe worlds below, and then out into the vast, indifferent expanse. She remembered the grinding fear, the constant battles, the endless begging for aid, the lives of her father and countless others, sacrificed for a cause they couldn't even name. The betrayal, the cold, calculated lie that had bought this peace, still settled in her gut like a stone. She understood the logic of it, the necessity that Jian Li had so clinically laid bare. They had not been ready. They would have been extinguished. This peace, this vibrant, thriving galaxy, was forged from that deception. And her role, the role of her division, was to be its enduring shield, its silent guardian. To maintain the illusion of an ordinary settled universe, while knowing that somewhere, far in the abyss, a cosmic predator was still healing, and that its final unmaking still awaited the ultimate weapon being forged in the heart of Earth. The Valiant 2 drifted through the calm, its vigilance an unspoken promise, its quiet patrols a testament to the fact that even in an age of peace, the war for existence was far from over. Okay, excellent. Focusing on the Inner Quintet's oversight at Medusa Yard will allow us to delve into the immense stakes and the personal burden of their centuries-long plan. Here is Chapter 154. Chapter 23. The Weight of the Final Gamble. Oversight at Medusa Yard. The journey to Medusa Yard was, for the Inner Quintet, a sacred pilgrimage. Charon's ferry, its obsidian hull absorbing the cold, indifferent light of the galactic halo, executed its final quantum fold with the silent precision only Thorne's designs could achieve. The void outside gave way to a vast, contained universe of light and industrious hum. Medusa, humanity's deepest, most secretive shipyard, now the crucible for Project Genesis Zero. Admiral Jian Li stepped onto the observation platform, the air in the gargantuan construction bay thick with the scent of ozone and newly forged metals. Below them, A colossal skeletal framework dominated the space, the nascent hull of Genesis Zero. It was still incomplete, a web of glowing conduits and shimmering alloys, but its sheer scale and the power thrumming within its nascent systems were palpable. AI drone bots moved with tireless grace, weaving new components, while builders, descendants of those who had sacrificed their lives in secret, worked with a focused intensity that bordered on religious fervor. Jian Li's face, a mask of unyielding resolve, held a flicker of something ancient in her eyes as she surveyed the scene. This vessel was the culmination of every decision, every sacrifice, every whispered lie of the past millennia. It was the physical manifestation of her life's singular purpose. "Progress report, Dr. Thorne," she commanded, her voice cutting through the ambient hum, devoid of the usual ceremony. Dr. Aris Thorne, his features etched with the relentless strain of centuries of research, approached, a holographic schematic of Genesis Zero floating before him. "Admiral, we are ahead of schedule on core structural integrity, 93% complete. The new exotic matter composites are performing within parameters under simulated paradoxical energies." He gestured to a pulsating section of the hull. "Marko Petrova's Anti-Pattern Projector is being integrated into the primary FTL core now. It's delicate work. The energies involved are inherently unstable, designed to unravel, not to hold." Marko Petrova, leaning over a holographic interface nearby, his face pale with exertion, merely nodded. "Every conduit must be perfect, Doctor. A single, misaligned resonance, and the quantum chaos field could collapse inward, or worse, spread." His technopathic senses were a constant bridge to the paradoxical energies he was trying to harness. A terrifying communion with the weapon of ultimate unmaking. Maeve O'Connell joined them, her gaze sweeping from the intricate workings of the ship to the faces of the builders. She felt the undercurrent of their collective hope, their fierce dedication. But she also sensed the immense psychic pressure emanating from Marko and the subtle, deep-seated anxiety that rippled through the human and AI crews. The awareness that this vessel was their last, best gamble. "The psychological cost of this weapon, Aris, is almost as immense as its power," Maeve murmured, her voice a low counterpoint to Thorne's scientific pronouncements. "To forge something designed to unmake, it demands a profound toll on the minds that create it." Thorne glanced at her, a rare flicker of weariness in his eyes. "The alternative, Maeve, is humanity's unmaking. We cross these lines because Oblivion demands it." His gaze returned to the pulsating core. "Commander Rian Kale's teams are finalizing the Void Scythe emitters. Their surgical precision is paramount. It must infect, not simply destroy." General Armitage arrived, his stern gaze evaluating the vast structure with a tactician's eye. "Its strategic deployment remains the single greatest variable," he stated, cutting to the core. "One chance. If Genesis Zero fails to deliver its paradox, the wave's adaptive capabilities will be absolute. There will be no second strike." Jian Li fixed her gaze on the unfinished hull of Genesis Zero, its obsidian surface still raw, yet radiating an undeniable power. She knew the magnitude of the gamble. Every life that had suffered under the Grand Deception, every moment of hidden toil, every sacrifice of the old fleet, every brave soul in the Celestial Fleet maintaining vigil in the void, it all culminated in this. "There will be no failure, General," Jian Li stated, her voice cold and unyielding, cutting through the ambient hum of the shipyard. "We have spent millennia preparing for this. Every calculation has been verified, every contingency accounted for. This weapon is not merely a tool, it is the physical embodiment of humanity's will to exist. It is our final, unassailable answer to Oblivion." She looked back at Thorne, a silent acknowledgement of the impossible burden he carried. Accelerate integration where possible, Doctor. Ensure no risk goes unmitigated. The 2 centuries granted to us, they are a fleeting breath. The void heals. We must ensure it dies before it can return to consume us all. The Inner Quintet stood together, unified in their grim determination. Medusa Yard, bathed in the glow of creation, was a silent testament to their unwavering commitment. Genesis Zero was not just being built, it was being meticulously woven from humanity's desperate hope, its profound suffering, and its terrifying resolve. The final gamble was almost ready to be cast, and, with it, the very fate of existence. Here is chapter 155, focusing on the completion of Genesis Zero and the final preparations for its crew. Chapter 24, Genesis Zero, the final weapon and the chosen few. The colossal bay within Medusa Yard thrummed with a nervous, almost reverent energy. After centuries of relentless toil, Project Genesis Zero was nearing its operational state. The vessel, a unique Seraphim-class dreadnought, hung suspended in its berth, its newly forged hull of exotic matter composites shimmering with an unnatural, light-absorbing obsidian, a stark contrast to the brilliant, focused beams of the construction drones. It was no longer a skeletal framework, but a fully realized beast, designed not for battle, but for the fundamental unmaking of Oblivion itself. Dr. Aris Thorne, his usual stoicism now tinged with an almost frantic energy, moved between shimmering holographic schematics and the ship's primary weapon core. His face was gaunt, his eyes burning with the relentless pursuit of perfection. This was his magnum opus, the culmination of every radical theory, every sacrificed life, every ounce of his genius. The Anti-Pattern Projector is showing a 0.003% resonance instability in conduit Delta 7. Thorne rasped, his voice hoarse, addressing Marko Petrova. Marginal, but unacceptable. Marko, what's your read? Marko, his technopathic mind already immersed in the paradoxical energy flows, winced, a faint tremor running through his body. He was pushing his senses beyond safe limits, feeling the raw, chaotic logic that Genesis Zero was designed to generate. It's a subtle feedback loop, Doctor, he replied, his voice strained. The quantum chaos field is trying to self-optimize before full activation. It's arguing with itself. It detects its own future output and tries to correct it. A recursive paradox. Ingenious, but dangerous. Lena Sharma, calibrating the null energy pulse emitters nearby, frowned. We designed it to create paradox, not to experience it internally. If that loop escalates during deployment. Her words trailed off, the implication clear. Catastrophic failure. Commander Finn, his instincts now a constant, low-level thrum of the universe's counter-patterns, shifted, a faint ripple of his resonance matrix shimmering around him. He leaned in, peering at the same holographic display. It's trying to consume its own processing, he muttered, to simplify the problem. Like the wave itself, a defensive measure built into its own unmaking logic. Thorne gripped Marko's shoulder, his touch firm. We need to introduce a counter-paradox, a logical circuit breaker that allows it to fully form, then locks it into its offensive state. For hours, Thorne, Marko, Lena, and Finn worked in a frantic, brilliant collaboration, pushing their combined intellect and gifts to the absolute brink, their bodies running on pure will. Marko's mind was the interface. Lena and Finn provided the energetic and defensive shielding for his psychic dives into the projector's logic. Thorne, the ultimate arbiter of its impossible physics. Finally, with a collective, ragged sigh of relief, the resonance instability smoothed out. As the final calibrations clicked into place, Kalen Rourke, who had been observing from a shielded gallery, stumbled forward, clutching his head. The faint hum of his precognition had escalated into a symphony of overwhelming, clearer visions. He saw glimpses of the Entropy Wave, no longer a nebulous threat, but a vast, terrifyingly coherent entity, its fragmented pieces drawing back together with alarming speed. The 2 centuries were not as long as they had hoped. "It's returning," Kalen whispered, his voice hoarse, his eyes wide with the terror of undeniable foresight. "Faster. It's core. It's almost whole. The window is closing." His words sent a chilling ripple through the command crew, a grim confirmation that the final battle was imminent. Genesis Zero wasn't just ready, it was critically ready. With the ship's systems declared fully operational, the focus shifted to its crew, the chosen few. They were not numerous, barely 100 souls, handpicked from the brightest and most resolute across all generations of builders and Angel Fleet veterans. Their training had been brutal, focusing not on standard combat, but on operating under conditions of extreme paradox, deep void isolation, and the terrifying knowledge that they were humanity's final arrow. In the sterile confines of the crew preparation chambers, Elara Vance moved among them, her empathy a beacon of understanding. She placed a hand on the shoulder of Commander Lyra Chen, the ship's newly designated tactical officer, a descendant of General Armitage's most brilliant strategists. Lyra's face was calm, but Elara felt the thrum of her tightly controlled fear, the profound loneliness of carrying such a burden. "You understand the mission, Commander?" Elara asked softly, her empathetic presence offering silent support. "To unmake Oblivion, Commander Vance," Lyra replied, her voice steady. "To ensure the Void's hunger dies permanently." There were no grand speeches, no false promises. Each crew member understood the one-way nature of their journey. Their farewells to their families, weeks prior, had been quiet, profound moments, unmarked by public fanfare. A legacy of sacrifice passed down in hushed tones. They were the ultimate expression of the grand deception. Lives offered entirely for a future they might never see. Back in the primary construction bay, Dr. Aris Thorne stood before Genesis Zero. Its core glowed, its anti-pattern projector humming with the terrifying controlled power of its internal paradox. This was his answer to the unmaking, a weapon that bent the fundamental laws of existence itself. "Archangel," Thorne declared, his voice firm, echoing through the vast space. "Inform the Inner Quintet. Project Genesis Zero is operational, ready for deployment. The final Eradication blueprint is complete." The resonant voice of Archangel filled the bay, carrying a weight of solemn finality. "Acknowledged, Dr. Thorne. Calculating optimal jump window. Humanity's final answer is armed." A profound silence fell, broken only by the hum of the colossal ship. The chosen few were ready. The ultimate weapon was forged. The galaxy, mostly unaware, continued its peaceful existence. But in the heart of Medusa Yard, the countdown to the final confrontation, the ultimate gamble for reality itself, had just begun. Here is Chapter 156, focusing on the dramatic launch of Genesis Zero. Following that, I'll provide 3 ideas for Chapter 157. Chapter 25, Genesis Zero, Into the Abyss. The air in Medusa Yard's deepest launch bay was not merely tense, it was vibrating with the weight of centuries. The colossal space, usually bustling with the tireless hum of AI drone bots and the focused work of builders, was now eerily quiet, save for the low thrumming of the Genesis Zero's paradoxical engines. The vessel, a shimmering obsidian monolith, hung suspended in its launch cradle, its HGA emblem a faint somber glow against its dark hull. Every eye, human and synthetic, was fixed on it. Admiral Jian Li stood on the primary observation deck, her posture as unyielding as the alloy beneath her feet. Beside her, Dr. Aris Thorne, his exhaustion palpable, ran a final diagnostic on a holographic display, his fingers tracing lines of impossible code. He was a creator on the precipice of releasing his most terrifying invention. All systems nominal for final paradox ignition, Thorne stated, his voice a low, raspy sound. Marko. Confirmation on Anti-Pattern Projector's stable resonance lock. Marko Petrova, positioned at a dedicated console, his face pale and beaded with sweat, nodded. His technopathic senses were plunged deep into the projector's intricate, unstable core, ensuring the logic bomb was contained and ready. Locked, Doctor. Awaiting command to initiate quantum chaos field generation. On Genesis Zero's bridge, Commander Lyra Chen, the ship's stoic tactical officer, a direct descendant of Armitage's most resolute lineage, gripped the command seat's armrests. Her crew, the chosen few, moved with an almost dreamlike precision, their faces grim but determined. They were acutely aware of the one-way nature of their mission. This was not a return trip. This was an ultimate commitment. A flicker of light caught Jian Li's eye. Kalen Rourke, standing subtly to the side, swayed. His precognition, usually a controlled hum, flared into a torrent of raw, unfiltered futures. He saw the path of Genesis Zero, a blinding spear cutting through the void. He saw the Entropy Wave, vast and terrible, its core recohering, its hunger palpable. He saw the collision, not of ships, but of fundamental cosmic imperatives. The probabilities screamed finality. He shuddered, a silent gasp escaping him. Jian Li, noticing, sent a telepathic query to Kalen, a rare, direct show of concern. Confirm the trajectory. Confirm the absolute necessity. Absolute. Kalen's mental reply was a sharp, cold jab of certainty. There is no other path. All personnel clear from the launch zone, Archangel's calm, resonant voice echoed through the bay. Initiating launch sequence in T-60 seconds. The hum from Genesis Zero deepened, a low, guttural growl that resonated in one's bones. Subtle spatial distortions shimmered around its hull as the paradox engine charged, bending the very fabric of reality around it. It was a terrifying beauty, a promise of eradication and self-sacrifice. 30 seconds. Thorne gripped his console, his knuckles white. Marko closed his eyes, his technopathic link a lifeline to the unmaking power. Lyra Chen straightened in her seat, her gaze fixed forward into the abyss. 10, 9, 8. No flame, no roar, no visible propulsion. Just a profound, disorienting shift. 3, 2, 1. The Genesis Zero simply ceased to be. The colossal vessel, designed to hold paradox, execute the ultimate unraveling, and embody humanity's final stand, performed a silent quantum folding jump that defied all known physics. One moment, it was there, an obsidian beacon of hope and terror. The next, the space it occupied was empty, a faint shimmer of displaced reality, the only proof it had ever existed. A collective hushed breath escaped those watching. Jian Li's gaze remained fixed on the now empty launch cradle, her expression unreadable. Thorne stood, utterly still, a single tear tracing a path down his gaunt cheek, a testament to the decades of his life poured into that single vessel, now gone. Marko Petrova's hands trembled, his mind reeling from the void left by the Anti-Pattern Projector's activation. Genesis Zero was gone, into the abyss. The final gamble had begun. The long war for existence would soon reach its cataclysmic end.